Stop abortion at the source, vasectomies are reversible, make every young man have one. Is what the feminists were screaming after Roe versus Wade was overturned. And I will blink over the fact they are advocating for male genital mutilation and then flirting with eugenics when they say, when he's deemed fit to be a father, it will be reversed. Because while it is true that women did lose some access to healthcare in case of unwanted pregnancies, it is not the subject of this video. This whole ordeal made me ask, what are the reproductive rights that men have? Do they have any at all? And I learned that men, by law, face a far worse uphill battle to be able to avoid parenthood than just having to take a road trip to Oregon. I'll start with a personal anecdote. I have two separate friends who were forced into fatherhood when their long-term girlfriends stopped taking the pill without telling them. These lies also placed a major grief in both their relationships, and they eventually ended up separating, but not without major child support bills. Now I don't need to tell you that they did not consent to unprotected sex and that this is grape, but this is the first reproductive right I want to talk about that men don't have. They can't be grabbed by a woman, and once the baby is on the way, there is no way for them to avoid fatherhood. Men rights activists are fighting around the world for the definition of grape to be gender neutral, but with little success. Feminist gatekeeping of these laws is too potent, and a feminist needs her child support. And she won't be able to win custody of the kid if she is on the sex offenders registry.
You can tell a guy you're on the pill, get pregnant, and then he's got to be a dad. There's no law about that. I love being a woman.
But wait, there is actually a way a woman can legally grape a man, and by grape I mean statutory grape, and by man I mean boy. You see, unlike men, boys are still protected in the Western world. But even then, when female teachers have sex, according to the media, with their students, they not only avoid jail, the kid victim is also forced to pay them child support. Here are two cases where this happened. First, the case of Nick Olivas, who was grabbed at 13 years old by a 20-year-old woman, became a father at 14 and was surprised served court papers for $15,000 plus interests in backed-up child support bills 6 years later, and the state began garnishing his wage. And case number 2, Hermesman vs. Sayer, which was argued in front of the Kansas Supreme Court, no less, in which the state successfully argued that a woman is entitled to sue the father of her child for child support even if conception occurred as a result of a criminal act committed by the woman. And take note that the victim in this case was 12-year-old when he was grabbed by a 17-year-old woman. Also, this was a precedent-setting case, and it was referred to in other cases. Baffled yet? It doesn't matter if you're baffled, because I'm just getting started. Men, if DNA confirms the baby is not yours, it doesn't change the fact that you must take responsibility of the baby. Believe it or not, this tweet was made into law a long time ago, and I will cover that in the following section. Back to vasectomies. That's the easy answer, right? Wrong. What in your sane mind made you believe this would be allowed in the Western world, even advanced as an idea by feminists, if it remotely protected your finances? Man who didn't father twins must pay child support. A Toronto man is on the hook to pay child support, notwithstanding a DNA test that proved he is not the biological father of his ex-wife's twins, an Ontario Superior Court judge has ruled. While the failure of the ex-wife to disclose to her husband the fact that she had an extramarital affair, and that the twins might not be his biological children, may have been a moral wrong against Mr. Cornelio, it is a wrong that does not afford him a legal remedy to recover child support he has already paid, and that does not permit him to stop paying child support, Judge Van Rensburg said. By the way, there is a term for that moral wrong. It is called paternity fraud, also known as the only type of fraud in the Western world not punishable by law, and not only is it not punishable by law, it is encouraged by the state in the form of monetary incentives through child support and lower tax rate for mothers. And that is not just in Canada, but in the US as well as the rest of the world. You see, vasectomy or not, when a child is born to a mother who is married, the law in most states presumes that the husband is the father. In those states, if a child is born during the marriage, the husband is legally the father even if a DNA test later shows someone else is the father. And, if you are a feminist thinking, paternity fraud almost never happens, Then take a look at these numbers. In fact, historically, paternity fraud was so prevalent that according to genealogists, most Americans with significant New England Yankee, Mid-Atlantic Quaker, or Southern planter ancestry are descended from medieval kings, especially those of England, Scotland, and France. Yes, you heard that right. Most white Americans are straight descendant from a king, and not the medieval farm worker and father who raised them. In fact, knowledge about this was getting way too out of hand in Europe, that feminists finally did something about it. In France and Germany, they banned fathers from getting DNA tests on their kids without both the approval of the mother and the signature of a judge. Nothing should get into a woman's cash flow, not even DNA science. Now, again, I know what you're thinking. Simple, I'm going to get a vasectomy and I'm not getting married. They won't be able to pin parenthood and child support on me then. Son, the feminists are way ahead of you. Feminists have brought forth and maintained common law marriages rules all over the world. In short, common law marriages are forced marriages by the state without a prenup. For example, in Denmark they do not mess around with the wordings they put into their federal laws. If anyone has a mistress in his home for 3 winters and obviously sleeps with her, and she commands lock and key and obviously eats and drinks with him, then she shall be his wife and rightful lady of the house. Yep, very straightforward. Girlfriend in your house for 3 years, congrats, you are married, and if you are married, then any child conceived during marriage is yours to pay for, whether it's actually yours or not. We just finished discussing this. I have a full video on common law marriage, if you are interested. I will link it in the corner now and at the end of this clip. Also note that forced marriages are considered to be a form of slavery by the UN, but it is okay when feminists do it. So no avoiding child support for you, even with a full vasectomy and not married, not in this lifetime. Now, I have had some argument about this with feminists on Reddit, and they claim that they don't support common law marriage and that men did it to themselves because of our antiquated gender roles mindset. Wrong. In Canada, the group of feminists pushing for common law marriage is LEAF, the Women's Legal Education and Action Fund. They are both pushing for Quebec, the only province without common law marriage, to institute it into its legislature, and they also provided free lawyers all the way to the Supreme Court in the separation case of Guy Laliberté, the owner of Cirque du Soleil, and his long-term girlfriend Lola. They even won in Quebec's Court of Appeal, stating that, since all the other provinces have common law marriage protection, and because Canada has an equality amendment to its constitution, this implies that women in Quebec should have the same common law marriage protection as any other woman anywhere else in Canada. And I repeat, they won with that argument in the Court of Appeal, so, in other words, they were able to bypass the entire legislative process of the province of Quebec, mid-trial no less, and get a favorable ruling on a law that wasn't on the books before the start of the trial. Luckily, they subsequently lost in the Supreme Court, but damn, feminists are powerful, and they still claim men have all the power. Now, again, I know what you're thinking. Simple, instead of getting a vasectomy and not getting married, and also avoiding cohabitation with women for the amount of time triggering common law marriage where I live, I'm going to only date single mothers who already have had their children and don't want any more, and also have their tubes tied. Son, I don't understand what is simple about your plan, and it's going to lead to some pretty awkward conversations posted on r-Tinder for all to see. But, again, feminists are way ahead of you. They have the stand-ins as a parent laws, which states that the person, or stepfather, who stands in the place of a parent can be required to pay child support. And by now, if you've been paying attention, you might have concluded that under these laws I've been mentioning since the start of this video that it would theoretically be possible to be on the hook for child support and still be a virgin, but alas, I've looked for such cases and didn't find any, but rest assured, dear viewers, if one ever arises, I'll make a video on it. Also, I want to touch on the subject of financial abortions laws that men don't have access to. The women equivalent of financial abortion is called hiding the pregnancy from the father and using the safe havens or safe surrenders laws and abandoning the baby for adoption at either a hospital, church or fire station. You see, even without a full abortion, a mother can easily walk away from motherhood. A man, however, will be threatened with jail if he does not pay his child support bills on time. We are nearing the end of the video, and since we are on the subject of jail and punishment for missing child support payments, here is an interesting piece of legislation: the Passport Denial Program of the Office of Child Support Services. Yes, if you don't pay your child support, then no passport for you. Notwithstanding the fact that passport confiscation is an indicator of forced labor, according to the UN, so yes, this is the second time this video demonstrates that the United Nations are equating feminist laws with slavery. But since it's women doing it, there is nothing to see here. Move along. And also, since I want to get all my bases covered, we're going to talk about the very rare occurrences where a man is on the way of winning full custody of a child, and it would mean that a woman would have to pay child support to a man. That is not allowed. Money flows only one way, and it is from a man to a woman. For women have access to the infanticide law, a law that only a woman can be charged with, because equality, that allows them to unalive an infant baby and not face any real punishment. And you don't have to pay child support if the child is all of a sudden no longer alive. The maximum sentence for infanticide is 5 years, but no conviction in Canada has resulted in a jail term longer than 1 year. There is no minimum sentence. And there is usually no sentence at all, as you can see here. Melbourne woman avoids jail for killing baby by laying her on railway tracks. Even the US National Library of Medicine has a page on murders of children by the mothers, and it states that it most often occurs during custody disputes. And yes, feminist organizations will provide free lawyers all the way to the Supreme Court to women charged with anything more severe than infanticide, in the rare occurrences where a prosecutor just came back from vacation with an empty caseload and a refreshed hunger for righteous justice. And that's it for today. Hit subscribe. I'm a new channel and I need support. Also, go watch my video on common law marriage, it's really good. And before I let you go, remember that anecdote I told you at the beginning about my friend's ex-girlfriends lying about being on the pill? Well, I just want to drive my point home. Take it away, Wendy.
So before we were married, he promised me we would have 2 kids, and now he doesn't want any more. My friends think I should trick him and stop taking my birth control.
Wait, can I just take a quick poll? Clap if you think that she should trick him. My people. Up next, everybody.